I'm Jess Dakotas.
And I'm Nick Colziel. Welcome to That Sounds Terrifying, the podcast where we share terrifying stories, we share listener experiences, and we visit virtually some of the most haunted places in the United States and the world. Welcome back, everyone, to That Sounds Terrifying. Joining me today is Jess Dakotas, sort of.
I'm here.
She's somewhere in there. Maybe we'll have to put like a little avatar of Jess
Oh, my
talking or
video isn't
something.
working today. I don't know
Yeah.
what's going on with Zoom. Zoom, if you're listening, fix your shit.
We really do need to find a better way to record these things.
Oh,
But yeah, so it's great to be back. Yeah, this is our second episode in 2025, but maybe it's not great to be in 2025. We were just talking off the air that just like everything that could go wrong is going wrong in 2025 already. So the year can only go up from here, right, Jess?
I don't know about that.
Wishful thinking, wishful thinking. So,
Yeah, I don't know about that. But hopefully nothing personal happens.
right?
Shouldn't we? And we're wishing everybody out there a very happy 2025. And hopefully less bad things will happen to everyone everywhere.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, um, we sorry, I got a notification on my screen. We have some good stories for you today, and this is a good reminder that if you have a personal paranormal story, you should get in touch with us. And Nick, what's our email address again?
Oh, it's that sounds terrifying at gmail.com.
So easy. That sounds terrifying at gmail.com. And if you don't want to tell your story on the air, you don't want to be interviewed, then you can write it down or talk to text and we will read it for you.
Yeah, we would love to read your story. It would be great. We like hearing stories. You like stories, right, Jess?
No, I hate them.
That's
Um,
true. Forgot about that.
yes, I love stories. I love paranormal stories. And I hope that if you're listening, you also love paranormal stories. Um,
Right.
or you know what? If you're listening and you hate paranormal stories, then I
What are you
also,
doing here?
I don't know. I'm actually very interested in that. I want to know why.
Why are you listening if you hate paranormal stories, right?
I would love to know
Yeah.
what your deal is. Like, are you just a true masochist or is it
Right.
just 2025? I don't know.
Well, and you know what? Might be a good point to also stop and say that, like, you're 50% here, as in we can hear you, but we can't see you. And I'm 50% here because, like, whatever is going on in my head, cold or allergies or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is going to be an incredible episode. See, I can't even talk. This is going to be incredibly episode 50%
50
episode.
and 50 is 100, Nick. We're
Yes.
fine.
So we're giving you 100% of our effort. And these stories are going to be 100% amazing and terrifying and all that. So
Yeah. So mine, do you want me to start? I'm gonna
we better get started. Otherwise, we lost some more listeners that
So
don't want
true.
to hear stories anyway. So maybe we are catering to our audience.
I don't know. I'm always nervous that we're just speaking into abyss, but I really like talking, so it's fine. It's just you and I having conversations.
Works way.
Um, okay, so this is a very personal thing that happened this weekend, which was really funny. But not for Evan, my husband. So, um, the other night we were sleeping and it was like I woke up and let me just preface with like my husband does not get nightmares like ever. I've never known him to get like really bad nightmares. Um, and we've been together for 17 years, and this was the first time this has ever happened. So I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden I hear, "Mm, mm, mm," like screaming, but like with his mouth closed. And I wake up and he's kicking. He's just like kicking and kicking and kicking. And I'm like, is he like running and screaming in his dream? And I was like, I wonder if he's like having one of those like sleep paralysis things where like he's like not awake. And like I'm kind of half awake, but like I'm like, well, I gotta put him out of his misery. I gotta wake him up. So I
Right.
like I just gently tap his shoulder, just tap him, tap him, tap him. And he's just still kicking and like thrashing his legs and screaming with his mouth closed. And so he finally wakes up. It just took like a couple seconds of just like tapping him and being like, hey, hey, because I didn't want him to like, thrash around and like knock me one like on accident because he obviously is in distress. So so he wakes up and he goes, oh, I'm sorry, was I snoring? And I was like, no, you were screaming and kicking. Um, Explained the situation to him, and he's like, oh, that tracks. And I'm like, what were you dreaming about? And he's like, it was really scary. I was at some kind of like spirit Halloween. He said, I was at the spirit Halloween, he said, but it was in January. They were still open in January. And I was like with some friends or coworkers or something. And and he said he had to deliver something to this spirit Halloween. Spirit Halloween. And he said like, oh yeah, there was a guy there that said like just go bring it to the basement. The door's over there. So he opens the door and he turns on the light and he said there was just one light that was like all the way far away in the basement. Like you couldn't see. It was just like this one small light bulb far away. So he's like, well, that's not good and that's creepy. So he walks down the stairs like halfway and he said they were like wooden stairs. And he looks in the basement and sees all these little shadows, like tiny shadows. And they're all like, all of a sudden he's looking at them and they just rush at him. And
Jeez.
they're like grabbing him and he's kicking them. He's kicking them and kicking them. And he's yelling for his friends. And he said he turned and looked and the door was shut to the basement. He was like, oh, that just figures. And he's screaming, guys, guys, come here, come look, come look. And he's like, he's yelling for them to open the door and he's kicking at these things and they're all grabbing at him. And finally they open the door and the light pours in and he's like, oh, thank God. And like he feels like they stop grabbing him and he turns back to look and all there is one single doll just sitting there at the bottom of the stairs.
That's
And,
creepy.
and I was like, were they all dolls? And he's like, I think so. They were all dolls. He's like, but I just looked back and there was just one sitting there. I was like, ugh, ugh. And he said he ran up the stairs and got out. And I was like, my dreams don't finish like that. I would just be left there, like staring at the doll. But isn't that such a creepy story?
That is. And you know what else is creepy?
Hmm.
So, not to detract from what you're saying, like that, what's freaking me out is like, I feel like I just read this because I was looking for stories earlier today and I'm like, I need maybe one more. And I found this pretty good story. And like, I was skimming through it and it was from a creepypasta. But one of the three highlights that I just like pulled out of your story were in that story. I'm trying to find it like as I'm talking, and of course I'm incapable of doing two things at once here. But basically, there was a point where in the story where it was about a mother and her child, and she was having nightmares, and the nightmare included her waking up to all these little shadows surrounded around, and they were like kid-shaped shadow people. All right.
Creepy.
Okay, and then she also talked about there being like this flash of light when she was opening a door. 'Cause this is just stuff I caught when I was skimming.
Hmm.
And then the last part of it was why I decided, you know what, I can't tell this story. It's just because it was just got too bad at the end. Um, and but it's just weird because I'm listening to you talk about Evan and his story, and it's paralleling what I just read. So that's kind of creepy.
Oh, that's creepy. That's a weird synchronicity.
Yeah. So, but I think I've shared with you, well, I know I've shared with you, but I haven't shared probably with the audience that like a contact of mine one time called me the human puzzle architect because I have this weird uncanny ability of like picking up on something in a conversation, right? And like I'll meet with you, Jess, and then like this is the first time we ever met, and then I will go meet with someone else, and it turns out that's the person that they were looking to connect with. And it
Hmm.
happens so much. But I haven't had it happen in a terrifying kind of sense or like where I'm like, why did I just like read and it wasn't the same story, but why did I
Sure.
like concentrate on those details? And it's just kind of creepy.
Right. And
So
then yeah, you pulled out those specific ones. That's funny.
it's weird. I'm trying to pull it up so that I can at least give you the story. But yeah, that's so and it's also weird that like because Evan doesn't have,
Never has nightmares. That's
nightmares.
never happened. We've been together 17 years, sleeping in that same bed, and I've never, he's never done that before.
That's
It was,
crazy.
yeah, it was, I don't know. And, I asked him, what did the doll look like? Because in my head, I was picturing like porcelain dolls, because we've talked before on this podcast. I hate them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I've had my own experiences with dolls that are just so creepy. But he said they looked like said they looked like he's like they looked like Rugrat characters, but like monster Rugrat characters. He said they were like poorly drawn Rugrat characters, like really creepy. I was like, I could see you making like Tommy Pickles real scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Rugrats character.
Reptile.
Reptar. Yep.
Reptile.
Yeah. Awesome. That brings back some memories too. Um,
Yeah.
all right. So I did throw in the chat, and just so people know, this is a story that I was thinking about. It's from Creepypasta called Laughing Jack. And
Ooh.
you'll see at the very end kind of why I decided not to be one of the stories. It just has child violence, and I just
Oh,
don't
that's
want to share
scary.
that. So like take a look at it. You can go creepypasta.com/laughing jack, laughing dash jack. Yeah, but there's just some parallels, and there's probably because I was reading like 5 or 6 different stories skimming, and maybe I just put them all together. But I know that some of the things that you were talking about in there, in fact, like the toys in the story, there was toys that ended up in her room,
Mm.
and she confronted her child about it, and he said, "Laughing Jack did it,"
Ugh.
So, but and she's like, "Well, you tell Laughing Jack to keep your toys in your room," kind of a thing. So, anyways,
Yeah.
just some parallels to what you were talking about, and I just wanted to at least give the audience kind of a clue to like where I'm coming from here. So I found it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but okay, cool. Do you want to hear a story that I did find that I am going to tell?
Yes, I would like to hear the story that you are going to tell.
That I am going to tell. All right. Let's do that. This is called also got it from one of the creepypasta sites. I think it was the creepypasta wiki called My Grandfather's Cabin. When we first moved into my grandfather's old cabin, I had a few reasons to be afraid. Firstly, I was 12 years old, and secondly, we moved in because the old house we had burned down to a faulty electric socket while we were away on vacation. And also, my grandfather was sick. He was a sick old man, not in the sense that he had some sort of illness, but what he had ended up killing him, giving us that forsaken cabin, but in the sense that was also insane. When I was younger, my grandfather would tell me horrible stories about the cabin he lived in and the woods around it. He would tell me stories of the Indian tribes who lived in the forest and were cursed by God for worshiping false deities and then being turned into the trees themselves. If you look closely while not looking at all, my sadistic grandpa would say you could still see the trees move and dance as the natives did. And if you listened carefully while not listening at all, you could even hear them chanting their worships for their false gods. I, of course, assumed he was just a crazy old man, and he was just trying to scare me from wandering off into the woods and motivate me to go to church. But still, since I was 8 years old and all, I would sometimes see a branch twitch in the wind or hear a faint howl in the distance of an animal, and I would worry about it being one of the Indians that my grandfather was so crazy over. But of course, the stories didn't end there. Not only was the cabin the original home to a clan of witches, but also home to a necromancer, a cannibal, and at least two serial killers and a family of Satanists. That sounds like a great place to have a family. To make the
Seriously.
whole yeah, to make the whole illusion complete, my grandfather made up a story of how we won the cabin in a game of Russian roulette against one of the previous owners. All these stories never truly scared me. Again, crazy old man. They spooked me when I thought about them too much, but I was never actually fearful where the stories were of the stories being true. But one story really stuck out. Supposedly, before the cabin was built, the natives used the area for human sacrifices, offering up human blood, and not only to their gods, but for the creatures that they believed inhabited the woods. Their creatures, my grandfathers would say, were known by many names in all kinds of folklore: Wendigos, the Jersey Devil, demons, White Walkers, the Goat Man. But my grandfather would always call them Morcheur de Peur. I'm probably saying that wrong. It's French for skinwalker. Uh, their beings of divine or mystical power were known to to feed off anything from human flesh and blood to human souls, or even the fear itself. The skinwalkers would stalk their prey through the woods they inhabited, and the sacrifice given was not enough to feed their hunger. They always attacked groups of people, never just a single person. That's why my grandfather said he lived alone. The skinwalkers would play with their food, often turning their form to look like a human to trick them and torment them, anything to get some fear to feed off before finally killing them. My grandfather said once they finished feeding off of anyone unlucky enough, they would peel the skin from the bone and wear it like a suit, often visiting the families of the deceased to further torment mankind and feed off of that fear. The reason this story scared me so much was because I truly believe I saw one. When I was 8, I was playing in the backyard of my cabin, and my grandfather was sitting in the back porch smoking his pipe and humming some old tune. He told me he was going to go inside and fetch some more tobacco and warned me not to go close to the woods. I nodded and kept on doing whatever I was doing at the time. After a few minutes, I felt the air around me turn cold, and the atmosphere seemed to get heavier, and I began to smell something like pennies. As the scent and the cold grew stronger, I realized it smelled more like blood. I felt the chill run up my spine and nearly gagged all on the metallic taste that lingered in my mouth. I was about to stand up and move back inside the cabin when I heard a soft, shrill laugh faintly beyond the tree line. I realized it was something that sounded just like my laugh. But now I was really scared. So I was so scared I couldn't move at all. The smell of copper grew so strong I thought I might pass out. But just then in the corner of my eye, I saw something move. I swallowed hard and slowly turned to see a little boy just standing in front of me in the forest. I was almost relieved until I saw his eyes. They were pure white. No pupils, no iris, just pure white. I felt my knees buckle under me, and my lip began to quiver as it smiled at me. It had no teeth, just a set of black, rotting gums that I could smell from several yards away. It lurked forward, doubling over, seeming to hack and gag and laugh all at the same time. Then it bent backwards, placing its hands on the ground and looking at me from between its legs. I swear I could hear the bones crack, break, and so we began to crawl backwards into the forest, making the gagging, laughing sound. And that's when I passed out and wet my pants. I woke up several moments later with my grandfather gently shaking me. The smell had magically disappeared. There was no evidence of the creature that I saw a few minutes ago. I told my grandfather what I had saw, and he grew so pale he almost looked like the boy's eyes. He drove me back to my house, not saying a word the whole way. I told my parents what happened, and I was assured that I fell asleep and dreamt the whole thing. So eventually, that's what I convinced myself that had happened. It still haunted my dreams, but I convinced it was my imagination and my grandfather's old stories just getting to me. Then we moved into my grandfather's cabin. Since we had lost all of our belongings in the fire, we had nothing to unpack. Even though I had convinced myself that I had dreamed what I saw all those years ago, I was still worried about living there for an extended period of time. My parents let me watch some movies that we rented when we went about cleaning the cabin that had been vacant since my grandfather died when I was 10. Eventually, I dozed off. I woke up on the couch, a bit surprised that I had fallen asleep for so long. As I groggily rubbed my eyes, I began to become aware of a tapping that was coming from the front door, as if someone was knocking with their fingertips. Even though I had no idea what it was, I got up to check on it, and then I smelt it again. That heavy, thick, bloody smell that had lingered at the back of my mind for 4 years. It had gone I got so cold I could see my breath. I felt my heart thumping through my chest and sent that same shiver up my spine. I was so scared in that moment I thought I was going to break down and start crying. And then the tapping stopped, but the smell grew worse. Beyond the front doors, I heard some gag and cough and laugh at the same time. My knees buckled and my lip quivered just like it did the first time. I became vaguely aware that I was slowly backing away from the door when I tripped and fell back into the couch. And then I passed out again. Again, like the first time, I woke up with the hand gently shaking at me. I woke up and realized it was my dad looking down at me. It looked like he was out of breath, but I was so relieved that he was there, and the tapping the door had stopped, that it all was a dream, and I didn't seem to notice. I smiled up at him, and he tried to do the same, but I managed to get one side of his lips to curl up. I was about to ask what was wrong when he scooped me up in his arms and told me in a hoarse voice that he was carrying me off to my bed. His arms were so cold they felt like metal, but I didn't care. I was already falling asleep again. He brought me to my room and laid me down in bed, and my eyes were already closed, and my mind was about to drift off. He leaned down, and I felt cold breath on my ear. As my mind shut down and pulled away, just before I fell asleep, I heard my dad begin to cough. I woke up once again in the night. I grew scared when I remembered the tapping on my door, but felt better that I was remembering it must have been a dream, and was thankful that my dad woke me up to carry me to my room. I sat up in bed, still just a little bit spooked. I looked around my room, realizing that this was the first time I'd actually seen it since I'd fallen asleep on the couch before I had a chance to check out my room. It was almost pitch black, so I could barely see anything. I gazed over the wall and saw a mirror. It was hard to see, but I could see my face and my upper body. I smiled at myself and saw my reflection smile back at me. Satisfied, I went to sleep. In the morning, my dad gently woke me again. He said, "Good morning," and asked what I wanted for breakfast. I told him what I wanted, and then I thanked him for carrying me to bed the night before. He looked at me confused and told me I didn't carry you to bed. But I wasn't listening anymore, because when I looked at the wall, just like I did last night, I realized I didn't have a mirror in my room, only a window. So, what do you think of that?
Ew. That's creepy.
Yeah,
I don't,
yeah,
I mean, I mean, like, if I ever saw something like that, I'd be shaking for years trying to tell that story.
yeah.
Um, like something that pure evil. I don't think, yeah. I don't know. Again, I've seen things and I had a hard time when you feel like it's an evil presence. It really is hard to tell that story. At least for me, it is. It's hard to get it out. It's hard to without like because it will physiologically like mess you up.
Right.
So, um,
And it
uh,
clearly did. I mean, like the kid, he peed himself, he passed
it
out.
would have,
It was
yeah,
overwhelming, and
yeah. I don't think I could tell the story, but like, I was just thinking about like it, like leaning backwards and walking back into the woods, or
yeah,
I'm like, no, thank you, and like. I don't know, but the fact that he was coughing, the father was coughing and like bringing him into the room. Why would I guess I'm just thinking about like why would something really evil bring him
right.
into his room? You know, like what?
I
I
don't
don't know.
know. I mean, if you go back to some of the lore that he was talking about, like feeding off the fear, right? And trying
It
to
could
like,
be.
maybe that's what it is. They're toying with you, and I don't know. I mean, it's a story that I got from the internet, and like
Hmm.
some of the backgrounds, like this house is owned by like
Hmm.
five different evil things. Like, okay,
Yeah,
and I do know that like so some of it I think was like embellished if it is true at all, right? But we have like I have heard other stories from other areas that speak to a lot of what this is saying, but
sure.
but like you're saying, why would it like come in? Like that's the other thing is like I usually maybe because of the history of the house, like but they can't come in, right? I haven't heard too many stories around that where they didn't specifically open the door and let them in, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of scary too. It's like, oh, they came in, it tucked you in bed, breathed all over you, gagged on you, and then it like left. I mean, it's a lot of things to unpack in this story, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Ooh.
So
It was creepy. Ooh, but I don't know. I think my mind would still be like, if God forbid, I never want to see anything that evil or
Yeah.
creepy like that, you know?
Yeah.
I don't walk in that neighborhood, so to speak. Like that's just not something that I want to see or know. But if I ever did, I would do the same. I don't know what else I would do. Like, but I would definitely scream, pee my pants. I'd get angry. I think that that's also my response, that fight or flight thing.
Right.
I freeze, I get scared, and then I get mad,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah. And I mean, putting myself in the shoes of this particular kid, at that age probably would be just like just very scared, not know
scared.
what to do, you know,
Hmm.
probably not, it's not something I probably would go to my parents about and tell them right away, kind of a thing. So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I mean, it depends, right? If you have that trust with your parents and you know that they're not gonna,
yeah.
but it would probably be scared to say it out loud too. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I'm even
Um,
saying kind of like what you're saying, like be afraid to retell it,
to
right?
retell it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You don't want it to like
So,
give energy to come back.
you know, but and then also like knowing that my grandfather has these stories and used to tell them all the time, and it's probably one of those things like you're saying, like if you think about parents that have dealt with, what they probably would think is like mental illness, you don't want to be given
Yeah.
that label, right, at a young age
Right.
either, to be like, I don't want to be known as just as crazy as Grandpa Joe. So, you
Right.
know, even,
Poor
so
Grandpa Joe. He was right all along.
yeah.
Oh man.
I just got a
Um,
Charlie Chocolate Factory kind of vibe for a second there, even though
yeah.
I'm like, I don't know why I said Grandpa Joe, but then I'm
Yeah, yeah,
thinking about
yeah.
this guy that couldn't work and get his family out of poverty, but jumped up when he got a golden ticket to go into a chocolate factory. So,
Yeah,
all right,
it's funny. We've been reading Carson all the Roald Dahl books.
yeah.
And I refuse to read the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh,
I Evan will read it to him. I won't. I read James and the Giant Peach and Matilda.
yeah.
Um, but I won't read Charlie and I don't like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't
Just
like
all that hate against chocolate. I don't
it's
know.
the children getting hurt thing
Yeah,
that I cannot I don't like the movies. I don't like yeah, like the idea of these kids getting hurt, no
right.
matter how atrocious they were, they're just children,
Yeah.
And so I just can't, even as a kid, I couldn't watch it. I hated it. People would turn it on and be like, no. And also the Oompa Loompas are scary and they're like, oh, they're cute. I'm like, they're not cute. They carry out evil deeds. They
And then
they
they
hurt
sing about
children.
them.
And they sing about it. Yeah, it's creepy.
Oompa
Um,
Loompa, look what
ugh.
we've done.
Yeah. Yeah. Hate that. I hate that movie. I didn't like the new one. I was forced to watch that one. I was like, no. So I
That's our
won't read
next
it to him.
terrifying movie of the week.
It really is. It is a horror movie. Those children are, you know, they suffer. It's I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyways, I mean, I digress on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but I'm not a fan.
We might have
I'm
to
just
call this episode a series of digressions. So, because I feel like that's what we've done. Our
um,
camera troubles, different stories, bringing Charlie and the Chocolate Factory into like a Wendigo French Skinwalker movie. I mean, show
indeed. Do we
story.
have time for another story,
Yeah,
Nick?
I think so.
All
I'd love
right,
to hear a story.
cool. Um, that can be the name of this podcast. It can be, I'd love to hear a story. Okay.
And other series of transgressions. Yeah.
Another series, yeah. So this was found on Reddit and it's brand new. It was written 17 hours ago by Kenosha Dash Cornfed. Um, and it's called Grandma's Voice. My grandma passed away last September, and a creepy thing happened when my family and I went back home for Thanksgiving. The Saturday after Thanksgiving, my dad asked me to go over to my grandma's house with him to help look for some papers that are needed for the farm. He is digging through the closet in the basement, and I'm upstairs looking in the closets up there. All of a sudden, we both hear my grandma yelling for help from her bedroom. We both drop what we're doing and run to the main floor of the house. We look at each other and we both nod to signal to the other one that we both heard my grandma. We both then look at the closed bedroom door and start stepping towards it. As my dad reaches out for the doorknob, we hear my grandma again, but much quieter, almost a whisper from the room. We look at each other again. We gave a F this look. And we sprinted out of that house. As we turn around in the driveway, I swear I could see my grandma sitting at her kitchen table just staring at us. Part two coming up.
Oh, wow.
Do you want part two?
Is it up? It's 17 hours later. It's already there.
Yeah, it's there. It actually has three parts.
Oh,
Hmm.
very busy in the last 17 hours.
Yeah, well, yeah, actually, this one was also 17 hours ago, so they
They
did part
just
two.
uploaded all the parts. Let's just not make it a seamless story.
Yeah.
Unnecessary chapters.
So part two. My dad and I get back to his house after quickly leaving my grandma's house. I told him we have to go back over there because I left some lights on upstairs and didn't shut the door on top of the stairs. He agreed and said he didn't shut anything off in the basement. We pull up and park in front of the garage. I come around the truck and can see something moving in one of the windows. Before I even ask him, my dad says, I saw that too, but I'm pretending I didn't. We go upstairs to turn off the lights because we don't want to go alone, but we notice all the lights are off and the door was shut and latched. I could accept the lights being off, but there is no way I would have forgotten I shut and locked the door. It takes a good amount of effort to shut that door. Not to mention the lock is a barrel lock and required you to spin and slide it to lock. We ran to the basement and all the lights were off down there as well. All of the lights have the pull chain, and my dad swears he left all of them on. We get to the front door and we hear my grandma again, but don't understand the words this time. My dad and I quickly walk to the truck and we notice a light on upstairs. I suggest we just leave the light on and leave. He already put it into reverse as I said it.
They keep
It's part
abandoning this
two.
poor grandma.
I know, that's what I'm thinking.
Screw you, grandma. We don't care that you're upset. I'm calling for help.
Yeah, I'm like, what? Like, what? Why are you leaving grandma alone? And like, I don't know. Like, I feel bad because if she's calling for help, that's scary. But I guess I'd have to know like what kind of person she is, you know? Like,
Yeah,
is she trapped there? I mean, if she's that strong of a spirit that she can like reach out from beyond the grave to her family members,
yeah.
like audibly, that's that's a very strong
Spirit.
person,
Yeah,
spirit. Yeah,
yeah.
like I mean, my goodness. Um, so part three, you want part three?
Yeah. Let's hear how they abandoned grandma in part three.
Poor grandma.
Poor grandma. Spirit grandma.
Spirit grandma, ghost grandma.
There's another title. We'll just write that one down. Spirit grandma.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like, if her urn was in there or something and they heard her screaming for help, I'd be I'd be
Oh
even
my
more
gosh, just got a
scared.
really weird mental picture of that one.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
scary. Like,
Genie in the bottle.
yeah. I don't keep opening it. Grandma?
Yeah.
But I love my grandma.
10,000 years in the cave of wonder. Got you such a crink in the neck. Right?
I'd be like, do not cremate me. I do
Yeah.
not want to be stuck in an urn. I don't want to be
Oh,
stuck in a box. Just like leave my body
yeah.
out in the wilderness.
A little plastic bag. Oh my gosh. Near new fear unlocked right
Yeah.
there.
Okay, so part three. Sorry, everybody.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
My dad and I never went back over to grandma's house before I had to make my 7-hour drive home. My dad called me about a week and a half after Thanksgiving to tell what happened the following weekend after I left. He and my brother went over there to still look for those papers. Still look for those papers, sorry. As they pulled up, all the lights were on in the house. They debated on even walking to the door, let alone go inside. My dad really needs those papers to transfer the ownership of the property to himself, and he just wanted to get it done. My dad made my brother open the door. When he opened it, they both could hear the old TV on in the kitchen. They both walked into the kitchen and could smell a cigarette burning, but couldn't see one anywhere. My dad turns off the TV, and my brother turns off a couple lights, and they both decide the papers can wait, and they leave. My brother looks at the house as they pull away and sees all the lights turn off at the exact same time. That's all they told me. I'll be going up for a visit in a month or so. There might be a part four if anything interesting happens while I'm there.
Gosh, there might be a part 10.
Yeah, I know.
Just
I
like,
mean, like, I just want to ask, like, I think I'm going to comment and just ask, like, what is your grandma like? Like,
yeah,
what was she like in like, when she was alive? Because that's, that's strong. That's a strong entity. That's somebody
yeah,
who did not go to the light, is just hanging out. Like, but also, like, is she messing with them by calling for help? Or is
yeah,
this something pretending to be grandma? Is this an
exactly.
entity pretending
Yeah.
to be grandma, like a really strong entity?
I'm trying to figure out all those things. Like I just this is one of those stories that just leaves you with questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like exactly like who was grandma and like but also like I guess what were the how did she pass, right? Is was
Yeah.
she like alone calling for help when she passed? Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's the torment I guess it's going through. I
Ooh,
don't
that's a
know.
good question. I'm gonna ask it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Because I
ask.
might answer some of these things, but yeah. Well,
Yeah.
good series of stories there. Like,
Yeah, it's creepy, right? Like,
yeah,
but I'm so intrigued. So intrigued because I want to know. Like, I don't know.
yeah,
That would be an interesting house to go into, especially like, I mean, I wouldn't be scared if it was my grandma. I, I feel like I would tend not to be. I'd be shocked, but I don't think I'd be afraid. But if it didn't feel like my grandma,
right.
then I would be like, okay, I'm scared. And again, I'd get angry because, like,
Yeah,
don't go pretend to be my grandma. Like, she was a saint.
yeah,
I'd get
yeah.
mad.
And I guess that's what's maybe that's what's bothering me about this story is like like I kind of joked and said they just keep abandoning poor grandma, but like
Right.
why? Like if
Hmm.
must it just almost feels like they don't think it's grandma. But
Actually, her.
yeah,
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think I'd be shocked and scared too. Like, but again, I'd be wary of it because I would want to know if it was actually,
really, yeah.
yeah. But
So
what a gift it would be if it was actually your loved one, right? Like that
right,
you could still talk to them. I would ask questions. I'm like,
yeah,
Grandma, where are you? You know,
yeah,
what's it like to die? What are we doing?
yeah, yeah. True.
Um,
If it could do anything but scream for help.
yeah, like have
So,
a full
and like at the very
conversation.
least, I'd want to help, right? Try to figure out how
Yeah,
to help it or it
right.
help her, be at peace, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
maybe
I was
that's the solution. Maybe that's part, I don't know what part we're up to, six, seven, like, doing a walkthrough and prayers to bring the spirit to peace,
Yeah, have grandma go to the light.
Yeah.
Bring in the light for grandma. But
But
yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. I'll start a little conversation there and see if they answer. It seems like they're answering people in the comments, but
yeah.
um
Well, keep us posted next episode. Maybe
yeah,
there'll be an
I will.
update.
I'll see if there's other parts.
Yeah, part
Um
13.
yeah. Grandma's revenge.
Grandma's revenge for abandoning her so much. Turns out Grandma
Um
was alive the whole time. She was just trapped in the in the crawl
yeah, in
space.
the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Oh
actually never
gosh.
found her body, so that's
Oh
weird. My dad's trying to transfer ownership.
yeah.
Like, what? It turns
Scary.
it turns to dad being like the evil.
Yeah. The tape recorder.
Yeah, she's scaring him off. She's like, "You're not getting my house."
Oh yeah. What was that? There was a movie like that. Was oh it was I might be thinking of what was I thinking of? Casper. I think that's what I was thinking of, where they tried to scare the criminals out, the
Oh,
robbers.
the people away.
Yeah,
I mean, they were the three uncles.
yeah,
Yeah,
or
they scare everyone away
yeah,
until they meet Harvey, Dr. Harvey, and
yeah.
his loner daughter Cat.
Another favorite movie of Jess's.
I mean, like, I like the
Okay.
movie. I just, again, think that the father
Yeah.
not apologizing to Casper or thanking him was a missed opportunity.
Wow. Awesome. Well, I think we've come full circle on this episode, Jess. I think
Oh, for sure.
we've we've done really well in our transgressions. So thanks for the stories. That was
Digressions.
great. I know, I meant to say, see, this is the sick brain. I definitely know it's about that time.
It is that time. So let's see. What did I drink this
I don't know.
weekend?
Whether it's
Oh,
NyQuil or
yeah,
ghosts,
ghost.
keep your spirits up.
Goodbye, everybody.
That was good.
That was funny.